The most powerful lesson I ever learned about dignity. It happened right there, on the cold marble steps of the federal courthouse. And let me tell you, it almost didn't feel real. It was a Monday, about 6:45 a.m., still kind of gray and damp, and I remember thinking, just get inside. Alana, get that coffee, review the docket, and start the week right. I was rushing, which is unusual for me, but my key card had failed at the private judicial entrance, the one tucked away near the parking garage, so I was forced to use the main staff entry, which I rarely touched. And that's where Officer Troy Maddox was waiting, standing tall in his navy blue uniform, the embodiment of a bad morning. I was wearing my best black suit, Armani, a ridiculous splurge but worth it for the confidence, carrying my heavy leather briefcase, the one packed with all my morning prep files. I walked toward the restricted door, the one clearly marked authorized personnel only, judicial access. I didn't even hesitate because why would I? I belonged there. But before my hand even touched the push bar, I heard this deep, gravelly voice cut through the quiet morning air. It was rough, dismissive, almost instantly hostile. Hey, hold up, lady. Get your loud-ass briefcase and your tacky suit away from this door. This entrance is for real people. I stopped dead, turned, and just stared at him. Officer Maddox, maybe mid-40s, maybe a little too comfortable in his authority. I took a breath, trying to keep my voice even, professional. Officer, I am authorized personnel. I belong here. My key card just malfunctioned at the other entry. He actually scoffed, a deep, performative sound. Like hell you do. Who are you, the new cleaning supervisor? Maybe you need to find the welfare office. Sweetheart, because this isn't it. And then, before I could even open my mouth to introduce myself, he whistled, a shrill, nasty sound, and his partner, Officer Miller, instantly jogged over. Miller, help me escort this trash off the premises. She's being non-compliant. Look, I'm a woman who knows conflict. I spent 15 years as a federal prosecutor. I thrive on high-stakes drama, but in that moment, in my expensive suit, on my own courthouse steps, all I felt was this cold, piercing humiliation. They both grabbed my arms hard and started dragging me backward across the marble floor. My heels dug in, trying to find purchase. My briefcase scraped and bounced. And I remember seeing the flashes of phones and the stunned faces of clerks and paralegals freezing in the lobby doorways, just watching this thing happen. I didn't fight. I didn't scream. I just kept my face straight, maintained my dignity, and let two grown men treat me like a piece of garbage in front of the very building dedicated to justice. I knew, with absolute certainty, that this wasn't about protocol. This was about what he saw when he looked at me. A black woman in a power suit approaching a door reserved for people he assumed didn't look like me. The shock wore off quickly, replaced by a deep, cold determination. I knew, standing on the curb after they dumped me there and stormed back inside, that this wasn't just a bad morning. This was a violation, and I couldn't let it stand. Not for me, but for every person who walks into that courthouse already feeling marginalized. Fast forward 3 months. I'm sitting in the gallery watching the civil trial begin. We'd filed a lawsuit for civil rights violations and assault under color of law. Officer Troy Maddox was on the stand, looking crisp, confident, and frankly, completely unrepentant. His lawyer, a slick guy named Harrington, led him through a sanitized version of events. Maddox was smooth, talking about his 20 years in security, his night shift expertise, his professional judgment in identifying threats. "Can you describe the woman's demeanor, Officer Maddox?" Harrington asked. "Agitated, sir. Evasive. She looked out of place," Maddox droned, puffing up his chest. "When I asked her to state her business or provide ID, she became defensive, making demands, claiming she belonged there. That's textbook behavior for someone trying to talk their way past security. He swore under oath that I couldn't provide ID, that I was resisting, that he was merely following procedure. The entire defense rested on him being a vigilant officer who made a small, understandable error in judgment while protecting the sanctity of the courthouse. I wanted to laugh, sanctity, but then my lawyer, the brilliant Ms. Anya Sharma, stood up for cross-examination, and the air immediately changed. "Officer Maddox, You stated you were covering an unfamiliar shift. When was the last time you reviewed the current judicial personnel roster? Maddox hesitated, his confidence flickering. That's usually not part of my night shift responsibilities, ma'am. So, you wouldn't know if a new judge had been appointed recently? Anya pressed. A new, younger judge, perhaps, appointed to the criminal bench 3 weeks before this incident? Maddox's jaw clenched. I wasn't informed, no. But your job is to recognize authorized personnel, correct? Even if they are new? Anya didn't wait for an answer. She walked to the evidence monitor and pulled up the security footage, not of my incident yet, but of 3 others. The first clip showed Dr. Leonard Hayes, a highly respected black surgeon, approaching the same restricted door 6 weeks prior. Maddox was instantly aggressive, demanding his driver's license, his bar association card, which Dr. Hayes didn't have, and his reason for entry, holding him up for 5 full minutes. The next clip, a young white woman in workout gear, clearly lost, approaches the door. Maddox smiles instantly. Morning, ma'am. Jury duty is down the hall. Can't miss it. Have a great day. No ID requested, no questions. Just waved right through. Clip 3. And this was brutal. Ms. Rosa Valdez, a Latina court interpreter, stopped and forced to show her employee badge for the 100th time, while 2 white court clerks walked past Maddox's shoulder unchallenged. Is this your standard protocol, Officer Maddox? Anya's voice was pure steel. Aggressive scrutiny for every person of color and cheerful courtesy for every white individual. Maddox stammered, his face turning an angry shade of red. Those are isolated incidents taken out of context. Anya smiled thinly. Isolated? We have 21 documented instances over the last 4 months. But let's hear what you really think. She then played the break room audio recording, obtained through a discovery request, Maddox's voice, crackling over the courtroom speakers. You should have seen this uppity black chick trying to pull rank today. I put her in her place. These people think they can just walk in anywhere like they belong. My job is to keep the right kind of people in and the trash out. The courtroom erupted. Maddox went white, his attorney frantic. He was exposed, not just as having made an error, but as someone driven by pure, ingrained racial bias, protected by a system that looked the other way. I finally took the stand, still Alana Sinclair, the victim for now. I recounted the horror of being dragged, the sting of being called trash, the betrayal of seeing the justice system turn on me. Ms. Sinclair, Harrington asked during his cross-examination, trying to salvage the wreckage. Isn't it true you could have avoided this entire unfortunate situation by simply stating your job title? I paused, looking him dead in the eye. I shouldn't have had to prove my worth to exist on the steps of a public building. Mr. Harrington. Officer Maddox made an assumption and acted on a prejudice. Not an inquiry. But you claim to have professional obligations at 9 a.m. What is your profession? He pressed, sounding annoyed by my evasion. I leaned slightly toward the microphone. My voice was calm, professional, and utterly commanding. My job title, Mr. Harrington? It would fundamentally change how this entire courtroom, especially the defense, views everything that happened that morning. And I believe Officer Maddox's actions must be judged on their own merits, not on the basis of who I turned out to be. The jury was buzzing. Who was I? A high-powered lawyer? A district attorney? Anya Sharma, my brilliant lawyer, gave me a small, almost imperceptible nod. It was time. Your Honor, Anya said, addressing the presiding judge, I believe the time has come to clarify Ms. Sinclair's professional obligations that morning, as they are central to the issue of harm and due process. She turned to me. Mrs. Sinclair, can you now tell the court precisely what your professional obligation was at 9 a.m. on the morning in question? I adjusted my posture, placing my hands palm up on the witness stand. I looked directly at Officer Maddox, who was staring at me with a mixture of fear and confusion. I was scheduled to preside over the 9 a.m. criminal docket. I needed to be in my chambers to review the files and prepare for the morning's proceedings. The word preside hung in the air for a perfect, agonizing second. Anya pressed the final nail. And to preside over a docket, one must hold what specific title, Miss Sinclair? My voice rang clear across the stunned silence of the courtroom. I am the Honorable Judge Alana Catherine Sinclair, appointed 3 weeks prior to the federal bench of this very courthouse. I was reporting to my job as the presiding judge for Criminal Division B. The courtroom exploded. The gavel slammed again and again. Maddox's face completely drained of color. He looked physically sick. His lawyer actually dropped his pen and stared at me like I was a ghost. The sheer, beautiful irony of it all hit everyone like a tidal wave. Officer Maddox hadn't just assaulted a citizen. He had assaulted a sitting federal judge, prevented her from entering her own workplace, and delayed justice for everyone scheduled on her docket, all because his ingrained prejudice wouldn't allow him to see authority in a black woman's expensive suit. The trash he dragged across the concrete outranked almost everyone in the building. Maddox was found guilty on all counts: civil rights violations, assault under color of law, and denial of due process, after just 40 minutes of deliberation. He received prison time and was permanently banned from law enforcement. Justice was served swiftly, and frankly, it felt profoundly satisfying, but the real victory wasn't his conviction. It was the Sinclair Protocol, implemented across the entire district, mandatory frequent anti-bias training, and crucially, an independent civilian review board for all security complaints. We shut down the system that protected men like Maddox. Today I sit on my bench, the Honorable Judge Sinclair, and every decision I make is colored by that cold morning on the marble steps. I never forget what it feels like to be judged by the color of my skin rather than the weight of my character. And that leather briefcase, the one they dragged across the floor, it's not in the Smithsonian yet, but it's sitting right here in my chambers, a daily reminder. So tell me, what would you have done in that moment? Would you have revealed your identity right away to stop the abuse? Or would you have endured the humiliation to expose the system that protected him? Were Maddox's actions purely racist? Or was there some small, forgivable kernel of error in his fear? Share your take in the comments below. We need to talk about these moments because when we shine a light on institutional bias, it makes it just a little bit harder for the darkness to hide.
Welcome to HOA Stories, where inspiration transforms into life strength. These are not just stories. They are your daily dose of spiritual medicine. HOA. Stories Bowl. We curate their resonant journeys, profound lessons, and extraordinary victories from around the world. Each video is meticulously designed to uplift your spirit, ignite your passion, and provide the most practical insights for your breakthrough development. Whether you are overcoming adversity, pursuing a big dream, or simply need a kind act to restore your faith in life, we are here to affirm. Every challenge contains a lesson, and every limit can be broken. Don't just watch, take action. Join us in exploring and enriching your life. Today, hit subscribe and turn on notifications to receive a daily source of inspiration and motivation.